We just witnessed one of the largest crypto sell-offs in history. And during this time, I think one of the most important things for all of us to do is to be looking into strong altcoins while they are on sale, because some of these prices will not be touched for a very long time. And when it comes to the crypto market cap itself, I know that this dip doesn't seem like a lot, but this was one of the largest sell-offs in crypto history compared to COVID, compared to FTX. And those are times where we typically wanted to be buying the dip, especially when fear and greed is at these levels. We typically start to see fear and greed hit some high levels of extreme greed after times like this. So, in this video, I will be talking about 5 altcoins to be looking into on this recent low and exactly why. So let's start off with the first one, which is of course Telcoin. I really do think that some of these altcoins like Telcoin are significantly overlooked. If we're looking at the last year, yeah, it's up 150%, but if we're looking at the all-time chart here, compared to that all-time high going back to 2021, we are still severely undervalued on this chart. Also, when it comes to the supply around Tel, majority of the supply is already out there, so we don't have to worry about token dilution or anything like that. And also, with some of the biggest narratives growing around crypto right now being payments and stablecoin initiatives, Telcoin is primed for significant adoption and also utilization of the underlying network because they are already tapped in on major payments, remittances, and even stablecoin initiatives. Also, they've been holding a lot of these great events and also participating at a lot of great events, like, for an example, Digital Asset Summit 2025, which is happening on the 13th through the 15th, so tomorrow. And yes, Telcoin founder and CEO Paul Nooner will be there talking about how can banks bridge traditional finance and DeFi. There's going to be a lot of great names at this event, like, for an example, Citi. We also have Standard Chartered there, Injective, and other players. So we love to see this. I think that this is great. And yes, we will see all of these speakers regarding the convergence of DeFi with CeFi. Now, on top of that, when we think about what Telcoin has been doing, they've always been trying to bridge the gap between retail and crypto through mobile phones, aka banking the unbanked through mobile phones. And the biggest thing about this is allowing anyone to utilize the Telcoin Wallet app to send and receive money around the world, utilize stablecoins for digital cash, or even send, store, trade, and more with digital assets. This is all through DeFi protocols and tapping into 100 different digital assets. This is all through the Telcoin Wallet, and we can see exactly how this looks. These are all of the great examples of what you can do on that Telcoin app. And it's a very clean, very simple, straightforward. I mean, this is the big thing about any mobile application around crypto. Some of these mobile applications try to do things completely different than what we see in Web 2 and expect Web 2 users to get the hang of it. With what Telcoin is doing here with their Telcoin Wallet app, it's building off of the same UI that we're so used to seeing when it comes to like PayPal or Cash App or even Venmo. So any Web 2 user that downloads this app and wants to tap into the digital cash revolution, they're going to understand this UI right off the rip. So we love to see that. And also, these are all the supported digital assets right now. And there's over 100 plus. You could see all of them just looking at the list here. But this is just one piece of the puzzle, right? There's so much more to offer here from Telcoin. Like, for example, yes, the remittances. You could send and receive money around the world to all of these countries. This is very, very bullish because, again, we know remittances is one of the biggest things out there currently. We know cross-border payments are broken. We know that the traditional financial system is completely broken. So the fact that Telcoin is tapping in to remittances within their mobile application, it allows even easier access to sending and receiving money overseas to 20 plus countries, and they are counting more. They're looking into additional corridors and expanding this. So we love to see that. And again, this is just another piece of what makes Telcoin so, bullish in my opinion. And then also, yes, with stablecoins, digital cash, We know that there is a ton of stablecoins already on the Telcoin app. We know that Telcoin is becoming a digital asset bank. They are already approved for it in Nebraska. Beyond that, we also know that they are launching their first regulated bank issued digital dollar. They did say that that's coming in 2025. It seems as though that's kind of getting pushed a little bit out later because, again, they have to go through all of the regulatory dealings. So again, it takes a little bit of time. And then we also have the EU EAA digital cash as well, which is the euro. So they are looking into launching even more stablecoins, expanding the stablecoin market on the Telcoin application and around the ecosystem. So again, this is another big selling point on why Telcoin is a very bullish project. So I really do think that with everything growing around Telcoin, with all of the major narratives that they are tapping into as well, I do think that we could make this 2021 run look very small in comparison to what we can do this time around. Again, I think that a lot of people are overlooking how bullish some of these altcoins can be once we start to see alt season show up again. And yes, I do believe that we will see alt season happen yet again. Outside of Telcoin, Plume. So Plume is one of those projects that I feel like nobody really is paying attention to. Yes, the supply is about 10 billion. Currently circulating supply about 3 billion. There is going to be token unlock. So if you want to avoid this project until we start to see more of this supply released, I will understand completely. Most of that supply, when we are thinking about like one of the largest unlocks, that's going to be happening on January 13th, I believe. Yeah, January 13th of next year. So this is upcoming. So if you want to avoid Plume, like I said, that's totally fine. I understand. And you could wait it out. But I do think that Plume is a very bullish project when it comes to one of the strongest narratives growing around crypto, which is, of course, RWA tokenization. And we'll talk about that here in a moment. But I do want to address some of the recent developments, like, for example, the announcement that happened on October 8th, which was Plume is acquiring Dinero XYZ. This is a larger tier project, 76,000 plus followers. It's a pretty large project, and we have Dinero is the creator of ETH's fastest growing liquid staking protocol. This strengthens and expands our RWA-Fi ecosystem with institutional grade staking infrastructure for Ethereum, Solana, and Bitcoin. So this is a huge one, and we have Dinero is behind IPX ETH, one of the most adopted institutional LSTs with 125 million plus in TVL, as well as PX Ethereum, which is Ethereum's fastest growing LST, also the highest yielding Bitcoin LST, the first 2 token LSTs on Solana, and then also Brenna LSTs live with 8 plus networks. From day one, Dinero has led in making liquid staking usable for institutions. Their Brenna LSTs unlock new primitives in Ethereum, Solana, and Bitcoin on-chain markets. This aligns with our mission to make tokenized assets composable, liquid, secure, and compliant. And if we're thinking about that, right, they're gaining a ton of bullish pieces from this acquisition because they're tapping in to all of the things that are going to allow them to grow the RWA-Fi side of Plume, but also they are getting key pieces around, for example, standards with regulatory clarity that will also set up a massive move towards institutional LST adoption. So when we think about that in comparison to what Plume has already done, this is very bullish. And what have they done? Well, let's go over here to the tokenization boom happening on public networks. $20+ billion, up almost 12% in the last 30 days. Plume is one of the largest networks out there. They're number 13 currently on this list. This value is up about 5% in the last 30 days. I know that it doesn't seem like a lot, but this has been growing ever since back in May. This is when we started to see this value grow, and we're already at almost $200 million. Stablecoins have also been growing on the network. We've also been seeing significant RWA transfer volume, especially in the last 30 days, up 40+%. Stablecoin 30-day transfer volume also up 37+%, hitting 1 billion plus. So again, Plume is starting to witness some significant adoption and growth, which we love to see. And like I said, they are a very large tokenization player. Now, outside of that, we've also witnessed another big push, which was the AI economy to RWA yield. Gabe AI will launch their AID and SAID products on Plume, unlocking one of the most powerful real-world yield opportunities in crypto. Post mainnet launch, Gabe will deploy on Plume. Users will be able to earn instant Nest credit reward points. This will be the first time Plume's flagship staking protocol will extend to AI compute and robotics for delivering RWA yield powered by AI infrastructure. So this is another big push with a $150 million deposit cap reached and an estimated 15% APY. Gabe is bringing the AI infrastructure economy on chain when Plume's compliant RWA platform connects with DeFi innovation utility compounds. So again, we are constantly seeing big moves happening from Plume at a time where the value of this thing is still down in a big way since that recent sell-off. And I do think that this is going to be one of those very large gainers once we start to see the market bounce back. Because again, Plume has so much substance behind it at this moment, and it seems as though they're not slowing down. They're only, accelerating more and more. Then talking about RWAs, Ondo. I've been talking about Ondo almost all year long because Ondo is one of those projects that I just see being a very significant pillar in the tokenization world. And this thing did drop significantly from roughly $1 down to 75 cents. And I do think that this is a very large opportunity because, again, we are at prices that we haven't seen in a very long time, since going back to roughly June. However, before that and before this year, again, these are prices that we were able to buy right before that massive swing to $2+. I do think that Ondo is severely overlooked in the space. I think that it's still extremely undervalued as well, even at a fully diluted value of $7.5 billion. Will there be token unlocks? Yes, there will be, right? We could see the next big token unlock upcoming in January as well. So again, if you want to wait this out, you are more than welcome to. However, I really do think that Ondo is just going to continue to make a ton of noise in this space. Recently, they did announce the announcement of global markets going live, which did include 100 plus of the world's largest stocks and ETFs, which are now tokenized on this platform. And that platform has been growing significantly. We could actually see tokenized public stocks hitting $670 plus million. We see this up 26 plus %. And most of the value is coming from Ondo with $303 million plus, up 65.84% in the last 30 days. Ondo is one of the biggest players here around tokenized stocks because of global markets. And then also on top of that, total value tied back to Ondo is almost $1.8 billion. Also, monthly transfer volume is up almost 12% at 530 million. This is one of the largest tokenization platforms out there. And I think that they're only going to continue to grow more and more and more. And we constantly are seeing more updates from them. So I really do think that Ondo is a must focus on if you are really, getting behind this big tokenization boom. Then next up, we have Track for obvious reasons. Now, this one I will say has been jumping in, price action, especially with the recent sell-off. So if you want to wait for this one, I would definitely advise you to. Because I do think that we could see a potential sell-off again on this chart, back down to one of these key areas on the chart. Just kind of looking at this real quick on, like, for example, the 3-hour, we could see a potential retest of some of these prior highs around like the 56, 57 cent zone, or potentially a little bit lower. It just depends on how crazy, we see price action really heat up, because again, this chart has been going crazy. If we're looking at the daily view here, I would say if we can flip some of these key highs back here, then that sell-off will most likely not happen. I mean, we're already at 73 cents almost on this chart. I know that CoinMarketCap's chart doesn't really update all that much, but if we're starting to flip some of these key highs from 2024 and we start to build back to some of these highs going back to like December, then yeah, some of these lower prices it's just off the table. But I do think that everyone should be looking into projects like this that were strong movers before this massive sell-off, because they typically have that violent recovery like this. So, is Track still a very good buy right now? Well, if we're looking at the long-term view here, specifically the all-time chart, I still don't think this one has really jumped out in terms of price action since going all the way back to 2021. Even with some of these recent highs, I still think that it was still extremely undervalued because of what they've been doing. So I'm watching to see if we see any more discounts on Track. Like I said, watch for a retest of those previous highs. We could potentially even see like 51 cents. That will be a huge opportunity to buy Track. I recently made a video about Track when it was trading below 50 cents, and I think that was prime time for buying. So, again, with this recent jump in price. Is there better opportunities to look into? Sure, especially considering the fact that it is up 60+% in the last day. You could look into other opportunities, but the reason why Track is so bullish is because they're constantly building out momentum around their ecosystem. It's one of the few AI-based projects that are actually developing real-world use cases and using AI to do so, especially around, for example, DeSci, as well as working with some major healthcare organizations. And then on top of that, they just continue to build out, core pieces of their ecosystem, as well as working with some other big players like, for example, Microsoft and things like that. I mean, I'm telling you guys, when we think about Track, it's one of the most bullish AI projects. If you watch my recent video on Track, you'll understand exactly why this is a completely different AI project compared to some of these other ones in this space that are just hyping up the AI tech boom. So definitely focus on Track. If we do see any discounts, I think that it is, one of those buying opportunities that you just kind of have to pull the trigger on, because these dips do not last long on these strong projects like Track. Outside of that, and last but not least, Curve. I really do think that Curve is one of those special DeFi projects because, number one, supply for this thing is so low at a time where a lot of Curve is staked already. Looking at the all-time chart, this thing compared to its 2021 highs, we've gone through hell. Let's just be honest. Curve had a hack back in 2024, which did cause the price to completely fall out from under it. And there's just been a lot of things to go through during that time as well. Like, for example, the trade war, the recent announcements around the market dropping. So Curve definitely hasn't had a good time in a very long time in terms of price action, which is also giving us a great opportunity because, again, DeFi, we know how big DeFi is. I think that DeFi is only going to continue to grow more and more and more. And Curve is one of those very strong DeFi projects. And back in 2021, it was one of the biggest DeFi projects as well, next to Chainlink and other major DeFi protocols. But, when we think about Curve, even going off of the 1 year, yeah, it's up 87% or 89% almost. But looking at that all-time high, we're down 99+% from that all-time high back in 2020. Now, was that all-time high one to really kind of, base it off of? Not exactly, because that all-time high was pretty much the release. I go off of the all-time high from roughly December of 2021, which is around almost like $6.75. So even off of that, compared to where we are at right now, it's still a very significant discount. And then also when we're looking at a few things like, for example, the actual platform, total deposits over $2+ billion, daily volume over 286 million. Again, when we're going off of the market cap for this thing, fully diluted 1.48 billion compared to the total deposits at over $2+ billion. Just going off of that factor alone, again, market cap compared to the value tied back to Curve, we're still at a very significant discount. And then when we are looking at some of the key factors like revenue, this was a post from September 30th, but Curve generated over $780,000 in revenue last week, probably nothing. Then also Curve Finance just printed massive volume in 24 hours, $844+ million. September 26th peak, 1.27 billion. In 7 days, 2.29 billion. In 30 days, 7.77 billion. One of the strongest spikes this month, showing Curve's deep liquidity still drives DeFi. And even if we're looking at Curve today, especially in the last week, right? We'll just go off of the last week. The revenue was over $1+ million. This was in the last week, $780,000 in just 1 week. Well, guess what? Curve just blew that out of the water because in the last week, we saw $1+ million. In the last month, again, if we're going off of the months going back to like 2022, completely different story. But if we're looking at the last month right now, in terms of like September, 1.57 million. We're halfway through October. We're already at 1.35 million. I think that we could rally against some of these previous months and hit well over $2+ million this month, especially if we're already at $1.35 million. Then if we're thinking about volume in terms of the actual DEX, in the last week, 2.66 billion. The largest spike that we've had since going all the way back here to like December or so, in recent times was back in September, which was almost $3 billion. Prior to that, we had like 4.2 billion back in December. I think that we could challenge some of these highs if we really start to, pick up some pace. Now, looking at the monthly view, This goes all the way back to 2022. Again, we're still looking very good in terms of the DEX. I want to really zoom out and just kind of, look at where we're at right now. In terms of the monthly view, already this month, $4+ billion in DEX volume. In September, it was 18 billion. In August, 10 billion plus. I do think that in terms of our DEX volume right now, we could easily hit, because again, we're not even halfway through the month, we could hit $8+ billion this month, which will be right on par with some of these other major months on this chart. So again, Curve is being utilized in a huge way. We're starting to see a lot of growth happening around Curve as well. So it's still alive. It's still, well. I do think that we will see DeFi bounce back in a huge way once we start to see retail come back in a big way as well. And during that time, projects like Curve will start to see a huge swing in the market. So I definitely think that Curve is a huge opportunity in this market right now to look into and possibly even average in or even add to a new position if you don't already have it. So with that being said, that's 5 altcoins to be looking into right now on this recent major crash around the crypto market. I do think that these are 5 altcoins that will print some very significant ROI this cycle. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because I'm more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord on the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out, guys.